So Moya Stillman and Michael Orbino. It's the Compass group, if I'm saying it right, and it's morphed over time, and you guys can explain more about that. Let me tell you a little bit about Moya. Moya is the co-founder of Team Foster. Probably they're very notable in the East Side with their mother Terry Foster. And Moya is a member of Inman News Realty Luxury Broker Network, and she's, I like this one, accredited staging professional. So you can explain that more, but I think I know what that means. When you get ready to sell, you got to make it look as good as you could possibly do, and that's probably your key role. Moya has appeared on HGTV, CNBC, and has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Seattle Times, and the Puget Sound Business Journal. And Moya, I'll skip over some of this just for brevity's sake. Moya lives in Medina with her husband, 2 sons, and Labradors, probably key, Labradors. But I did notice when I had your mother's bio too, who's not here today, the bottom of hers says Terry is her name. Terry lives in Bellevue with her husband and 2 energetic Labradoodles. So you've got Labradors, she's got Labradoodles. So there's something going on in the woods back there. So Moya is also going to be joined up here with Michael Orbino, and Michael is the managing broker for Team Foster Builder Developer Services at Compass. Compass is the overall, I'll call it, parent company in Downtown Bellevue. And Michael brings nearly 18 years of real estate sales, marketing, and consulting experience to every client. He was 2015 Realtor of the Year by Seattle King County Realtors, which is the highest honor they can bestow on only one of over 6,000 members. That's quite an accomplishment. On the personal side, Michael's proudest role is maintaining the rank of sergeant after serving 6 years in the United States Army Reserve with 1 year of active duty mobilization to support Operations Noble Eagle at the Iraqi Freedom. And on a personal level, Michael enjoys spending free time with his family and friends. Hobbies include skiing, boating, reading, traveling, and then the one I like is intense conversation. So Michael enjoys intense conversation. We're going to get a bit of that right now. So with that, I'll let the 2 of you come up here. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Good afternoon. I'm enjoying lunch. I don't know. Can you hear? Okay. Sorry for the tag team kind of who's speaking. Is it 1 or 2 of us? Such as real life and real estate. We're actually literally right in the middle of a buyer tour. So we've been showing houses all morning. The buyers are out at lunch, probably at one of the Bellevue Collection restaurants, and then we're going to rush back out and finish the tour. So it's never a dull moment in real estate typically. So but we'll get started here, and you want to do your introduction? Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you as well to the Chamber and these great organizations. It's funny, you know, Joe from the Education Wars and the Charter Battle, so it's great to see you. And also, Sweeney Conrad, thank you for supporting great organizations like this. And I'm seeing my accountant over there, Shauna, and I was trying to avoid her in the lobby. Because I think I've got 25 days left. So we're going to jump right into it. Lots of headlines out there. Everybody's talking about real estate. So a quick introduction about us, but then we're really going to be doing 2 main sections to our presentation. One is behind the headlines that you read on the economic conditions behind real estate, and then also hopefully it's relevant to the business owners and the decision makers in the room, how the industry itself is evolving. I mean, we're going through quantum changes right now. I'm sure just by show of hands, how many people have a Zillow or Redfin on their phone? Just curious. Okay, half the room at least. And so there's a lot of changes going on there. I'm just going to say probably the only thing, and thank you for the gracious introduction, Dwight. I do a lot of government affairs work, and so we're going to talk about kind of how that affects this greater environment as well.
Yeah, so you heard a little bit in the bio, but we're all part of Team Foster, and together, the three of us, along with Terry Foster, we have over 70 years of combined experience in residential real estate. So Terry is my mom and our business partner, and she's been selling residential specifically for over 30 years, mostly all on the east side. We are definitely looked to as the leader in luxury real estate, so mostly high-end property and new construction. We do sell all price points in all areas, and consistently year after year we are ranked as the #1 team in sales. We don't take that for granted. We really focus on a very high level of customer service, and that is something that's very important as the industry is evolving, and we'll touch on that a little bit later in the presentation.
And I promise to try to be crisp in the presentation, but I do like to tell stories, and I just want to say one thing about Terry, who's a friend, a colleague, a mentor, and role model to me. The first time I interacted with Terry was almost 15 years ago. I had my first $50 million project. The clients trusted me. I wasn't sure that I trusted myself yet. I was in my middle 20s. And I called Terry's office. I had read an article about her and said, actually I wrote her an email and said, hey, can I talk to you? I don't think you know who I am, but really love your advice on something. And she got back to me, I think within an hour, and said, yes, I do know who you are, and I've got some time at 6:15 a.m. tomorrow, or I think it was like 7:45 that evening. And I learned two things. One, I was so humbled that she would give me an audience that quickly. And two, she's the first person I ever met in my life that's scheduled on the 15th. And she still does to this day, so she's just a phenomenal person and a great leader for us.
So we were all at Windermere for quite a while. Team Foster was there for a good, I guess, 10 years or so. And then about 2 years or so ago, we broke off from Windermere and decided to create our own brokerage, which was called Avenue Properties. And so some of you might remember seeing the news. It was a pretty big deal because there were 6 high-end agents, including the two of us, that left Windermere and went to go start this boutique, very high-level service, high marketing brokerage. And we really saw the need for improved marketing, improved client service, and as the industry was evolving. So that was in February of 2016, and we had no idea, but it really just took off like a rocket ship, and we grew from 6 to 180 agents very quickly. We're located right over next to Expedia, just a couple blocks from here on 108, and quickly did over $1 billion in residential sales. So we were the fastest growing residential brokerage that the market has ever seen in quite a long time. Last summer, we were introduced to a brokerage out of New York, national company that's called Compass, and they are the largest independent real estate brokerage in the country. So Coldwell Banker, Remax, John Wall Scott, Windermere, those are all really large companies, but they are they're franchisable. So Compass is the largest independent single owner company. So they approached us last summer, and we started talking with them and really saw a need for a marriage of high-level service, high-level marketing, and a technology piece. And that was really kind of missing from Avenue Properties, which was a smaller company. We wouldn't be able to do the big investment in R&D and IT and new products that the consumers are really looking for. So it was an interesting opportunity, and we decided to jump on it. And in August of last year, we officially announced our merger, and so now we are all part of Compass.
So, the fun part about Compass is it's a Wall Street-backed enterprise, venture capital fund, largest investors, a group called SoftBank out of Japan. And anybody who reads business news, Financial Times or Wall Street Journal would know the name SoftBank, or knows anything about the Sprint acquisition and the T-Mobile potential merger is all SoftBank has its hand in there. So it's fascinating going from a locally owned brokerage, which Windermere was. I was with many years with John L. Scott, also family legacy organization, to kind of a New York-based company that fancies itself as a disruptor. But what's interesting and unique about Compass is, we have other disruptors in real estate. Everybody's trying to take a bite out of real estate right now. And that's fun. It keeps us on our toes. It keeps us honest. Whereas Zillow and Redfin have kind of used technology to try to either maybe even eventually replace the broker. Compass has taken a basically different approach, saying that we can compete on technology, but we'll use the brokers as the vehicle to get there. And one of the, I don't know if it's apropos or not, but metaphors that I think about is, what if rather than Uber had tried to go recruit new drivers, non-professionals, or maybe a few professional black car drivers, but they'd use that technology to kind of consolidate the taxi industry, and how would it look differently? And they forced taxi drivers to step up their game and clean up their vehicles, and gave them the technology for on-demand pickups instead of just getting hailed. And so that's where I see Compass in our space, is going back to the people who do the job and trying to equip them with the tools. So it'll be interesting. We'll see if it works, and we're going to try our best to make it work.
I think one other point to touch on about what Compass is doing here locally, they have picked Seattle to be the head of the product and engineering development for the company. So they have a lot of consumer technology that they are rolling out, and all of that is going to be created here. So they hired the former CTO of Microsoft last fall, and they're currently in the process of hiring about 150 engineers here in the Seattle area to build that center. And so Seattle will be the main place for that Compass technology for the rest of the country.
So I think that hopefully sets the table well for everyone. We're going to jump right into it, kind of beyond the headlines. And I'm going to read all three of them just for the folks in the back in case you can't see. First one on the left, and I'm going to read left to right, is the Seattle Times. And all of these are in the last month, literally grasped from the headlines. Market turnaround, King County home prices take biggest 1 month jump ever. Second, Amazon, Facebook plans to ignite Bellevue real estate frenzy, Redfin says. And the third, Seattle area housing market bounced back despite Snowmageddon. And so there is a tremendous amount of energy in the market right now. The whole point of this presentation is getting behind the headlines. And I'm not one that is a media disparager. I believe it or not, I read 6 newspapers a day. I enjoy newspapers, and I hope we all support them. And the headlines are accurate. I wouldn't dispute that, but we want to go a little deeper, because all of those things can be true, but as my mother used to always say, the whole story is still just part of the story, meaning that it's from one person's or one limited perspective, and it's impossible in 500 or 800 words to capture the whole market. So we're going to do our best to kind of give you a little bit more detail on that. So just real quick, and I always tell our brokers this, I do a lot of training. I'm a Washington State certified clock hour instructor. And one of the things I always say in classes is it's not just the data on the chart that you're looking at. All charts tell a story. And I think the story on this chart, the bright green is the number of homes for sale, and this is all the east side. And the east side basically goes from, Lake Washington, and includes Woodinville. Renton is not included in this graph, and then east over to the pass, I guess Snoqualmie Ridge and North Bend. But what you see there, and I think the story that this chart tells, is the doubling of inventory. When you look from left to right, year over year, you've got literally 1,266 listings compared to almost half that this time last year. And so that is where what it's done is create kind of a feeding frenzy this first quarter. People are excited. The buyers were worn out. They had to compete on all these properties. And so the median price has gone up, but what's happened is all the median is a reflection of is where the price activity is. And one of the kind of metaphors I use with my clients is, and it's more apropos than ever because we just recently went through it. Who went to the grocery store? Yeah, during Snowmageddon. You went to the bread aisle. and the bread aisle was cleared out, and there was like a $9 specialty loaf of pumpernickel bread or something. And before, the average price of bread might have been $1.50 a loaf when you average all the brands, and then all of a sudden all you've got left is $8 a loaf. Well, a fool would say that, you know, the price of bread has just been raised 600%. That math is accurate, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And a good realtor, a good advisor, what we try to do for our clients is play the role of the baker. So the smart consumer would go to the baker and say, hey, you know, when are you going to replenish your stock? And the baker's going to say, yeah, the 99-cent, the $1.50, the $1.99 loaves are going to be on Wednesday. And that's how you accurately tell the story. And so yes, it is true that the median has jumped, but the factors on why it jumped, it doesn't mean that every $500,000 house went up 10% or every $5 million house went up 10%. It's a reflection of where the economic activity is. And what is that driven by? Largely the stock market. When the stock market drops 20% in about 45 days, and then it goes up and it recaptures almost all of that, 13%, but dollar for dollar, that has spurred a lot of frenzy. So the interesting thing is our $2 and $3 million listings are getting more activity right now than our $600,000 listings, which is concerning. It's good on one level, that shows, but it's also concerning that the bottom may be struggling a bit, and that's an affordability thing.
And I think, you know, factoring in the demand is something to look at too, right? So everyone knows we've been on this cycle for a couple of years, and it's like, well, okay, but eventually supply and demand are going to equal out. Well, we, especially with the Amazon, you know, HQ2 kind of shifting, and part of that coming to Bellevue, we're all really lucky. The demand is just, you know, higher than ever in certain price points. And so, like Michael was saying, that 2 to 3 range is definitely in demand. We're seeing multiple offers again already. And then you have some other areas where we're going to really start to see things level out.
And this is another graph and chart, and again, it tells a story. And what that is inventory, and that's just sales divided by number of listings. And we measure it in weeks or months. And what I want to display there is it's tripled. But I also want to keep it in context. 2.4 months of inventory is still a relatively low number historically. What we consider a normalized market is closer to 6 months. But again, you cannot ignore any chart that goes up and to the right at that kind of angle. You know, and so it is real. Sellers that are coming on are maybe not used to having to compete, but it is a good news for buyers. So if you are trying to buy or wanting to buy in the last year, you probably have the best selection this quarter than you've had maybe even the last couple of years, and your best negotiation power.
Well, you can really tell, you know, compared to so we know these numbers are small, but to the left side of your chart, you know, the low point is, the far left is December 2017. And I mean, that's a dramatic change in inventory to where we are now, even though it is still a low supply.
I'm not going to spend too much time. This is my, Dwight and I were kind of doing a fist pump for being UW Foster a business. So this is my professorial slide. I can hardly say that word. But the point of that slide is really that there are a lot of different factors that drive pricing. And I think whether it be the headlines or even us in our own business and our real estate brethren and sisters, try to latch on to one thing and say that's controlling it. Where, you know, real estate generally has a intrinsic appreciation value. It's generally 2% above inflation. Everything on the top, though, is more of a near-term issue, and that's your job growth, your regulatory impact, the lack of condominiums, the lack of turnover, the aging in place issues that we have they live in. That is a unique thing to our area, and it creates its own challenges, and I don't see a fix to that. One of the things on that bullet point, I did serve on the City of Bellevue's Affordable Housing Task Force. And on one end of the spectrum, we're trying to figure out and solve for millennials and all you people that, you know, have kids that you're worried that are going to have to flee the Puget Sound area because it's too expensive. On the other side of that barbell that I'm sensitive to, because my grandmother was from Bellevue and bought her house for $12,000 in 1955, and you know, and she's passed. But the point of that story is she was able to age in place, and she lived in that home until the end. and how do we keep our seniors in their homes as well. And oftentimes those two things are conflicting. If we don't get the seniors to move, there's going to be no housing options for the younger generation, but at the same time, so these are complex issues that I think smart people are trying to work on, but there's no easy answer.
Well, so jumping kind of back into how our industry is evolving, the biggest thing, just like for any industry, has been the introduction of technology and how the consumer really wants to use that through every process, whether it's buying their car, buying their home, ordering food. It definitely seems like real estate is the last frontier where technology is really going to cause that disruption and make those changes. You know, the wild card with real estate is that, at least on the residential side, it's such a human experience. And I think we've seen that other industries evolve much quicker, you know, food delivery, buying a car, you know, all these other things. But when you're dealing with, you know, someone who, you know, has just lost their spouse, or they're, you know, first-time buyers and they finally can afford their first home, it's such an emotional experience and that human element. It is going to be difficult for technology to really, you know, replace that human experience. But definitely in the last 2 years, we've seen more disruption than ever. So you've probably heard the term iBuyer. I don't know how many people in the room are aware that Zillow actually is purchasing homes themselves now and holding those and then turning around and flipping them. So technology is creeping into every area of the industry, and I think that is why Compass has been so attractive to the venture capital community. It's the only brokerage that is really trying to jump in with technology and embrace that technology and figure out how to make that marriage work.
You know, and so every broker, every brokerage, and I think writ large, every business needs to decide what are you going to do with technology? Are you going to fight it? Are you going to be a Luddite? Are you going to embrace it and try to go cutting edge? Or are you going to, is it going to hurt you? Or are you kind of eroding your own business model? These are the things we deal with and we struggle with. I think all of us are struggling. I'm hard pressed to think of any industry that isn't going through technological change. And you know, I've gone to lunches, many like this, talking about artificial intelligence, and they're saying that's going to be bigger than high-speed internet, and what that's going to change. So, and there's a lot of people in our business chasing it, but again, with the anecdotes, and we looked at just some obvious things that, you know, you can see those images there. That one in the upper left is an old bank teller, and below is the ATM machine, and that one's a fun picture for me because before I got into real estate, I did work for Wells Fargo Bank, and I worked there for 4.5 years. I started there, I'm not exaggerating, when I was, I think, 15 and a half. And I don't know how they trusted me with that much cash, but I guess I'm a good salesperson. And I remember then, that was in the middle 90s, and we had just introduced depositing your money into an ATM machine. People were scared to death of it. And I remember the old tellers and even the managers in Wells Fargo was promoting this and saying, you know, it was like a sales goal for us. And a lot of the old guard said, don't do it, don't help people do that, Michael, it's going to put us all out of business. But of course, being a dumb kid and being interested in computers and technology in the middle 90s, I embraced it and used it to, you know, leave as a premier banker at age 20, which I was the youngest by like a decade, and using those sales goals. But and if you look, the traditional branch is still around. And I remember Washington Mutual was really pioneering at that time, and they got rid of the teller line, and they were doing these weird little kiosks and bistro tables, and where you just were kind of having coffee with your teller, and you know, but it was really progressive, and I still remember that, and I remember the fight about that. And so in our business today, you know, examples include, you know, and Moy and I are about the same tenure and experience. There was a fight over whether or not we should put photos in the multiple listing service, because the broker said, well, we post those photos, nobody's going to come to look at the houses. We had a battle over that. Obviously, we put everything online. We had another battle over our electronic keys, and we said if we do electronic keys, you know, the value of a showing agent is going to be wiped out, and nobody's going to come to the open houses. And I had just come in at the time when we were having a battle about even using the internet at all, because the people right before me were still using these old kind of books where they control all the information. And that's only been in less than 20 years, that evolution. But I would say the Realtor organization is stronger than ever. 1.4 million members, and honestly, some of you guys who sell are going to hate this, but commission rates are actually higher than they were when I came in, as a matter of percentage, even with the increase in value. So I think there's a way to embrace technology. I don't think you can run from it, but you have to be able to find a way to marry the old with the new.
And focus on that service, you know, so even as technology continues to evolve, and we really will see it make the industry more efficient and the process more efficient, and you can sign electronically and all of those things, but you still need that human experience, and the customer service level just has to, you know, hit it out of the park every time. And speaking of that, I'm actually going to skip out and get back to our client, and you're going to wrap up. But just so grateful for the opportunity to be up here with Michael and for you guys to hear a little bit more about our organization.
And thank you for that, Grace. Anytime we can get Moya to speak, it's always a privilege. And can you tell we do presentations together? Because we didn't really plan all that, but it's easy for us to shift off each other. And that is the real-time real estate and kind of that marrying of service. We have all the technological tools available to us, but we've got a client who reached out to us on Monday and said, I'm flying into Seattle on Thursday, and I've got, well, excuse me, today is Wednesday. I don't even know anymore. This is work weekends. Is today Thursday? I have no idea. I really don't. When you work 7 days a week, you have no concept of days of the week. So Thursday, but they're in town for 5 hours. They touched down. Moya picked them up at the airport. She's been showing them and dropped them off to grab a bite to eat, snuck in here, and she's going to go pick up with them, and they fly out in about 2 hours. And this is you know, the embracing, and so we use technology to schedule these appointments, but at the end of the day, there's still a human interaction. So any of you business owners, I don't think it's time to fire your salespeople quite yet. I lead sales teams, and without them, we're toast, without good salespeople. So going forward, just kind of talking on that theme, is really, you know, you still need, even in our business, a salesperson that can stand there, greet, present a house 40 times over in 4 hours. Smile, nod, connect, build rapport. One of the industries that they're looking at us is basically doing an Amazon-style, you know, door lock, where somebody could get online, input their information, they do a quick background check, make sure they're not thieves and criminals and identity thieves, and then we would just remotely unlock the house and let them go browse themselves. That is being pioneered in Phoenix right now. Zillow is embracing that technology. And I find it fascinating. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know any of our clients are going to let strangers walk through their house alone, unescorted. But it's telling. It's telling. Is that where we're going? We're aware of it. And so, you know, and that, by the way, that's a photo of Terry. So our clients do expect data in real time. So as soon as we leave an open house, we're using that, embracing it. We're emailing, texting, running graphs and charts, and sending that to them immediately. We are big proponents of logs and social media, but again, social media, and I had a hard conversation with a client here the other day because they don't really live in social media, and they said, look, we want to do more advertising. I said, look, an effective social media strategy is not advertising, it's engagement. Sorry, that's my alarm to make sure I didn't run over time. And so it is all about engagement and having a conversation with people. Passive advertising on social media, if you're doing that, you're probably wasting your money. It's making Facebook a multi-billion-dollar company, but our strategy is all about engagement, and we have a team that's pretty much dedicated full-time for that. And so again, it's an example of using the tool, but it's using it as a tool. It's not a replacement for anything. And lastly, kind of, I think, you know, this slide kind of tells it all. I mean, this is what we do. This is families. This is single people. This is seniors. This is young people. This is immigrants. And, you know, a lot of real estate is what I call rainbow real estate. It's exciting. It's you know, we're buying a new house. We got a promotion. A lot of our work is not exciting. I mean, it's the 4 Ds, I call them. It's death, debt, divorce, and disease. People get sick, they can't handle stairs, a spouse dies. I've dealt with many estates in my career, and I just don't know how a robot does that yet. I'm sure they will come up with an empathetic robot And then we would be really threatened. But a great salesperson and a great counselor and advisor will always trump an online service for that very complex. This is a divorce, you got to be very careful. These people have raised 3 kids in this house. They've lived there for 25 years and they're ending their marriage. I don't think a robot's going to fill that gap. Not yet. But I don't know if she'd be insulted, but I've said it before. So, and I say this to Terry, when I'm Terry's age in this business, it'll be the year, her age today, when I'm her age, it'll be the year 2042. So I think about that. I'm thinking about that. What will I be able to retire in this business? Will I have the career that Terry had when I'm looking forward to what is real estate going to look like in 2042? And I think it's always going to look like that. But I'm paying attention. It's real. There's an old saying in our business: once you are a successful realtor, you're officially unemployable. So there's nothing else I can do. So just final thoughts. I think every business has to make their own decisions and figure out their niche. But as far as embracing technology, you can't hide from it. You got to use it. You got to find a way to control it. And it's like riding a tiger. The tiger can eat you, but you better know what you're doing. And then on the market itself, there's no question we just went through a correction. 10%. A correction is defined as 10% off the highs. Where we go from here is much harder to determine. There are so many reasons why the market needs to correct. It's too expensive. Interest rates are artificially low. People are debt and maxed out. And yet, what I think could and may happen in our area specifically is what happened in Palo Alto, Santa Monica. We get into this perma-low inventory market. And the problem is, and from a selfish business perspective, that's actually the worst of all worlds. It just means transactions stop happening. So the people can't afford to, it sounds weird, you can't afford to move, but you can't unless you want to leave the area or retire. And so that is a future that unless something happens with these $2 trillion companies that we're gifted with in our backyard, I just don't see how it can collapse. So I think, again, reading the headlines, if you read a Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal, I think you're going to see real estate really struggle across the United States. We're not totally immune from that, but what happens is transactions just stop happening. And I think I had 1:15, so is Q&A or are we over? Kim, sorry.
We can have some Q&A.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, if you've got any questions from the audience, hopefully. Go ahead.
So Michael, if you would be willing to share with the group your perspective on Zillow and the change in their business model. I mean, for 10 years, they've been a listing aggregator that's been basically an advertiser on the internet, and they now seem to be shifting their business model 180 degrees to becoming a brokerage. What do you think that says about the industry? What do you think that says about their model? And can you help us figure out what they're doing?
Sure, absolutely. So Zillow is a fascinating company. I mean, they're based here in Seattle. I think their market cap on a recent check was $7 billion. That's not something that John Scott, or even Compass itself can compete with. Zillow has evolved since they came in, and I've known their former CEO, who was just replaced, Spencer Raskoff, since really he became their CFO. So 11 years I've known him, and we've had kind of thought conversations about the future of the business. And they started out really aggressive and said, we're going to nationalize the MLS, and we're going to allow a platform for buyers and sellers to connect directly. Failed miserably. And so they said, okay, but through that, we've got the finest real estate website in the country. It gets the most hits and looks. Well, how can we monetize this? And so they went to the real estate community and said, hey, all these people are looking, we'll sell you leads. And that is what has made themselves an $8 billion company. So they went from foe to friend. And I have a lot of colleagues that have built their business on Zillow. Now, it feels like they're returning back to kind of their original thesis. And I think that's really driven by their CEO, who's a very brilliant man, Rich Barton. I'm sure a lot of you business people know who he is. And a lot of my colleagues get mad at me. They're like, why are you so fascinated by it? Because these guys are changing. Like, how can you not pay attention to them? You'd be a fool not to. But I feel like they're returning to the original thesis of of saying that we're reducing friction in the process. Reducing friction is a euphemism for getting rid of annoying salespeople who charge a lot to be in the middle. So that's my weekend name. I call myself Friction. So that's come full circle, and now they're going to be buying homes and trying to sell them. Again, very interesting upmarket strategy may work. Down market, how can you buy and hold? And the other thing is, as a realtor, we have a duty of ethics. I cannot. How many times do you think I've been in somebody's house with an unsuspecting person who doesn't know the true value of their house? And I know that their house is, maybe it's worth $500,000 as is, but my job is to unlock that value and say, hey, if you get rid of these ugly curtains and you repaint here and there, we can unlock $50,000 of value. I take pride in that. It's exciting for me. I work hard to it. That's Moya's staging background. That's what she does. That's what we do. Whereas I could easily say, you know what, this thing, nobody's gonna like this house, and you know, why don't you just sell it to me for $500,000? I'll do the work and keep the $50,000 for myself. So again, from an ethical transaction perspective, I'm not suggesting Zillow is unethical, so please don't take that from the conversation. What I'm saying is, I don't know how you solve for that, because what you're doing is looking for, if you're a finance guy or a business school, you would call that arbitrage. You're looking for people who don't know how much value they have in their house, buying it, flipping it in 6 months. And that's why usually flippers don't have a good reputation, because nobody feels good when you do that. And there may be some specific unique examples that people, like I said, they're in a divorce, they're in an estate, they need a quick sale, they're illiquid, and they can accept that. But for most of us in this room are not gonna feel really good if somebody buys our house for $500,000, you know, in February and resells it for $750,000 in October. Sooner or later, it's lost to them. So sorry, long-winded answer, but I think they're gonna have to figure that part out. I don't know how you've solved for that. Any other questions? Crickets. Crickets. Okay. Then I think I'm not going to drag it on. There's plenty of people to talk. So thank you for coming to listen to us, and thank you for the grace. And again, I'm sorry about the movement around it. Hopefully, though, it was still informative. But point of the story is we've got a lot of changes happening in our business. I know you all do too. But I think, you know, as I say to my people, it's a military term, but stay frosty. That's all I can say. Just stay frosty.